All right. Thank you, Michael. And kudos to Michael. I'm glad that he is on the football team now. I'm not sure he feels the same way, considering men's basketball is leaving for the Bahamas tomorrow morning, and he would be on that trip if he wasn't working with football. But he is sacrificing him with football, so excited to get to work with him here going forward. Can't wait to get started. Preseason camp has officially started. Practice tomorrow morning. A lot of buzz and excitement in our building and outside our facility. Also, you talk about the returning players, the new players, the returning coaches, the new coaches, the stadium renovations, now being with Nike for the first practice tomorrow. It's just so much excitement going on right now. As I mentioned to you last week at the golf tournament, our players and coaches had the weekend off last weekend, finished up our summer workout program last Thursday. Everybody, players, coaches, staff was off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to get back, refreshed and recharged one more time before we jumped into it. Players came back Tuesday along with the coaches and worked out a couple days this week. So I know everybody enjoyed that last hurrah, last catch your breath weekend, last weekend off till February, and then cranked it back up today. Just finished a couple hours of meetings. Our players are in meetings right now with the assistant coaches, and then I know they'll be down here shortly. Some more meetings tonight, and then on the field tomorrow morning. Appreciate y'all coming out and braving the elements, that the storm that has popped up for sure. So appreciate you guys coming out. But overall, thought it was a really, really, really good summer. I know every coach in America is standing up at a press conference talking about the great summer their team had, and we're no different. We did some things different this year with how we trained. No radical changes, but just some things to learn more about our team from a physical standpoint, but from a character standpoint also in a lot of ways. We purposely made it really, really hard for those guys, and we definitely learned a lot about our team. So much respect for Luke Day, our head strength and conditioning coach, and his staff, Chip Morton, Jameel Walker, Mitch Oakey, Nate Sedergren, Will Mullins, Mike Procino, and Jacob Kernat, and the work that they put in this summer. And it's not just the guys in the weight room, it's a team effort. Our players have been back since Memorial Day is when they came back to start summer school. So our whole staff has been here all summer with them. So you talk about what's going on in nutrition with Yemi Rodriguez and the gains that we made there, whether it be guys that needed to gain weight, guys that needed to lose weight, guys that needed to lose some body fat percentage. He did a remarkable job. Our training staff, I'm not sure if it's been talked about, but Clint Haggard, our head athletic trainer, has been promoted, so now he's over all of sports medicine here at the university, which is an awesome honor for him. But we've hired a new football trainer, John Melia, that we hired earlier this summer from Tulane. John has come in and hit the ground running, and he and his staff did a great job. Kelsey Hounshell and Jared Muth and Josh Fike, and the work that they've put in. So Larry Waters in the equipment room. That was a big transformation going from Under Armour to Nike in the middle of the summer. So you talk about all the boxes that had to be delivered of shoes, clothes, gloves, you name it, unpacked and put in lockers to get operational in the middle of the summertime. Larry and his team did a great job where our guys left here one day at the end of June and came back on July 1st, and all Nike was in their locker, and we didn't miss a beat. So he's a pro at what he does and did a great job. So many people to thank for the summer that we had. Now it's time to get to work. No real updates injury-wise. Same situation with Peak and Dylan. They won't be practicing full tomorrow, but definitely on track, and they got good checkups or updates from doctors at their appointments last week. And then the only other guys that'll be out tomorrow, Josiah Thompson, which you guys already know about, Josh Smith, who got injured during the spring, and then Jackson Rep, unfortunately, wide receiver for us, got injured over the summer, so he'll miss the season. Jackson will. Wish him well going forward. He'll still be out there, and he's attacking the rehab process hard, and look forward to seeing him get back healthy. But everybody else will be able to do something tomorrow on the field. Obviously, we got some guys that are limited with some normal bumps and bruises and strains, whatever it may be, but nothing long term. We'll be on the field early tomorrow morning, but there's no doubt in my mind. We walked off the field last November in our last home game. That was literally 250 days ago today. And there's no doubt in my mind that we're a better football team 250 days later than what we were that day. When you talk about the staff, the personnel, as Coach Spurrier used to call it, talking season is finally over. And there's been a lot of talk since last January, and now we finally get to go do what we love to do, and that's practice football and start playing football in 4 weeks from Saturday, and fired up to get on the field with the guys tomorrow. Questions?
Shayna, there was the court case in Colorado saying some players from the 22 class will get an extra year. Have you guys had any discussion about potentially adding a player due to that case?
Yeah, we've had some discussion, David. Really, we're kind of in a holding pattern until we get some more clarity from NCAA, SEC. I don't think anybody's really doing much of anything right now. Is there anything imminent? No. Is there any player that I've had a discussion with? If this passes, we want you to come back, or we want to add you to our team? I have not. So I don't. Never say never. We'll always do what's best for our program, but don't anticipate anything changing.
You mentioned you guys made some changes to how you train this offseason. Can you provide any examples of kind of what ways you said you purposely made things harder?
Yeah, I think more just I wouldn't say it's anything different necessarily with the lifts or what we did for conditioning, more just how we what's the word I'm looking for? Measured the things that we did, try and do as many things football-like as we can from a mental toughness, physical toughness. Jordan tried to do a lot to really have leadership develop and put guys in positions where they have to communicate and they have to lead when, the bullets are flying, so to speak. And then probably just seeing how, let's empty the tank. In other words, where if you're a guy and we're doing some sort of conditioning, there's not necessarily a set ending point to this conditioning drill. It's more, let's see how far you can go in this allotted time. It's not just about running, whatever it is, 200 yards. You got a minute. Let's see how many of those 100-yard sprints you can do. Just different things that you're always tweaking to try and get the best out of this group. And every summer is different in regards to what that team needs, but there's no doubt in my mind what we did this summer was what this team, the 2026 team, needed, and really pleased with the work that those guys put in.
You mentioned earlier that you think your team's a better football team now than they were 250 days ago when you walked off the field at Willie B. You mentioned a lot of the coaching changes, personnel changes. What have you seen to encourage you about that growth from the players that were on that team last year?
I think just their conviction since they came back in January. As y'all have heard me say before, Elijah, there's a lot of guys that easily could be somewhere else right now that were on that team in 2025 that easily could have gone somewhere else, whether it be another college or the NFL. And they all chose to come back. And I love this quote. I've said it with you guys before, but your investment level equals your expectation level. And we have a group of guys that went through some really, really hard stuff in 2025. We're better because of what we went through. We've grown because of what we went through. And because of their investment level, the years they've been in this program, what we went through this past season, there's a high expectation level too. Those guys, yes, they love Columbia and they love being a part of this program, but that ain't the only reason they came back. They came back because I believe they know we can have a really good football team, and that's what I've seen since January is just the work that they've put in, the experience that we have. You look at, I know y'all love depth charts, but if you look at our depth chart last season, there were 4 seniors that started for us. Nick Barrett, my mind's going blank. Nick Barrett, DQ Smith, and Brian Thomas on defense, and I guess just Rasul at running back. 4 seniors. And then if you look at what – we don't have depth charts, we're competing, but if you look at what there's a likelihood of it potentially being, you're looking at triple that this year, the number of seniors that are starting for us. And when you got that kind of experience and that many guys that have played a lot of football, that gives you, a lot of hope for what's to come. Now, there's a lot of work to do, and we're a long ways away from where we need to be. But, yes, there's zero doubt in my mind that we're better with the guys that have come back and the additions to transfer portal. This freshman class has got some real dudes in it, character-wise and physically as players. And then the coaching staff and the additions we've made there. I get it. We haven't played any games. We're undefeated right now, but I'm really excited about this overall group.
Shane, last year, Lenoris's numbers, I guess, just weren't maybe as glowing as they were from 24. In one-on-one conversation with him, did he express any disappointment in how he played himself? How do you think he rated his season last year?
Yeah, I think he when you have the season that we had, the blame falls on the head coach, and rightfully so. And then not just at South Carolina but anywhere, the quarterback, and he doesn't believe he's a 4-8 quarterback, and I don't believe that he's a 4-8 quarterback, So he took ownership and accountability for the season, and absolutely, we've got to be better around Lenoris. There's no doubt about it, but Lenoris will be the first to tell you. And we had a good meeting way back in whenever that was, January, myself and Lenoris, and Kendall was here, and Lenoris's family, and just kind of talking about what 2026 is going to look like and what we need from each other, how we can be better for him, and where he needs to be better too. And he accepted all that and has really worked hard to be a better player.
How does the 5 to play 5 rule affect how you rotate guys, especially freshmen who may not necessarily play as much, would have been red shirts in the past? Do you handle things differently now that it's 5 for 5?
A little bit, John. I mean, I've always been kind of under the philosophy, if they can help us and they're ready to play, let's play them. In that, even last year or the year before, that yes, they have a red shirt year available, but if they can help us win football games right now, I'm all for getting them out there. I think they become, happier because they're playing and not red shirting, and I think it's a win-win for everybody. So I've always been under that philosophy, play them, but now more so you can be even more open-minded with that, if that makes sense, because they do have, that 5th year. And again, we don't want to just say, okay, every freshman we're going to find a role for you because you now got 5 years to play 5. Like, you got to be able to help us win SEC football games. Ultimately, that's the thing that we got to do. But knowing that you have that, you don't have to have discussions necessarily about a red shirt year and he's not quite ready, let's red shirt him. If a guy's ready to play, let's play him, and if he's not quite ready, then that's great. Let's continue to develop him and then have him ready to go when he is ready.
Shane, with the competition, position battles you guys are going to have, I'm sure a lot of it comes down to who's performing the best, who gives you guys the best chance to win in terms of who's going to be starting. But when you're going through this next month here, is there anything that maybe goes unnoticed or you don't really think about too much from a outside perspective of like what can help separate those guys in those competitions?
Yeah, I think a lot of that was the summer. That obviously we don't broadcast what we did in the summer and whatnot, but I mean, I spent, Luke and his guys did a great job. I spent over 3 hours this morning with the strength staff, just me and the strength coaches, going through every player on the team and talking about the summer. And, we pay a lot of attention to that. How available you are in the summer. Do you have a bunch of bumps and bruises and issues that keep you out of workouts, or are you readily available every workout that we had going back to May? Because that means we can depend on you. Injuries are a part of it. I'm not saying that, but the guys that are able to sustain and do what they need to do in the summertime, that's something that I put a lot of stock in. How guys worked over the summer. I mean, we can talk about a lot of guys that, you know, had great summers, but really who really separated themselves, particularly in a position battle. And, yeah, coming out of spring practice, there are some battles that we knew there were decisions to make, and they still are. But certainly this summer, there's some guys to me that separated themselves from the pack with the summers they had. So that would be one thing before we even start practice. And then once you get into practice, yeah, I mean, it's easy to say this guy's making a lot of plays, but just, you know, who's that tough, smart, dependable guy that just does things right day in, day out. He doesn't flash one day and then disappear the next. He's just, you know, steady and consistent. And those are the guys that you want to go to battle with.
Despite all the things that have gone on the offense, your defense has been pretty consistent over the years. Going into this season, are you feeling even better about the defensive unit than maybe over the past 5 years? Could this be one of your better defensive units?
I think it's certainly got a lot of things to be excited about. There's no question. Fortunately, yes, we're year 6 in this system with Clayton, who's one of the premier defensive coordinators in the country that doesn't get enough credit nationally. Year 6 with him. So you got a lot of guys, not just year 6 with Clayton, but you got a lot of guys that have been in this system now for a long time. And, you know, Peyton Williams and Vicari and Judge, I mean, they're going into their 3rd or 4th year in this system. So you can kind of take what we're doing defensively almost to the nth degree with them, because they have the foundation. So that gives you a lot of excitement. But we were talking about it this morning that as a staff before I met with the strength coaches, that, you know, you look at this defense, there's a lot of things to be excited about. And I'm not saying they're the 24 defense, because that group was pretty sporty. But if you look at 26 and 24, there's a lot of similarities in so many ways. When you know, Dylan should be a better version in 2026 than what he was in 2024 because he's older. And we've brought in some portal guys. Julian Walker had a great summer, is going to be a really good player for us. You look at the defensive line, defensive tackles. Now, 4 of our top 5 defensive tackles in 2024 are currently on NFL rosters. So I'm not saying that that's this group, but when you look at the overall depth, there's more depth in that room than we ever had at the defensive tackle position. I think we could arguably, you know, we'll see how this preseason goes, but I mean, we're going to be able to rotate more guys on the D-line than what we did last year. Linebacker in 2024, you had Bam, Debo, and D. Knight. You know, 2 of those guys are on NFL rosters right now. But when you look at Sean, J.O., and Fred coming back, that's 3 pretty good players coming back. And then in the secondary, like I mentioned, those guys that have played a lot of football, plus some, you know, talented freshmen that have come in too. That's a, you know, good group with experience. So there's a lot of work that we still have to do, but yeah, we've played good defense. We've been very opportunistic. We've been very aggressive, and we've got to continue to be this year, and very confident that we will be.
Following up on your answer to Jack's question, who were some of those guys that asserted themselves and stood out this summer during workouts?
I can't get too deep into that, Hale, because then I upset somebody else or leave somebody else. I mean, I think it was a lot of really, really good guys. There's a lot of guys that had great summers, and I'm not trying to dodge the question, but don't want to name one and then not name somebody else, because we could be here for a while. But in some of the competitive testing that we did, there were really some guys that separated themselves and did some really eye-opening things in some of the testing that we did. And I'm not talking about how much we bench and squat and all that, but a lot of some of the other stuff that we do. So we had a lot of group of guys that did some really good stuff. Sorry.
I'll ask you this because you said you spent a significant amount of time with them this morning, but from a strength and conditioning perspective, what work went into this summer to make sure that they're better suited for the 4th quarter this season compared to last year? Yeah,
great question. We need to be better. You look at everything, and as I've talked about before, in 2024 we were a really good 4th quarter team, and in 2025 we weren't. And you start as the head coach, okay, why is that? But then you go into the summer and say, okay, what do we need to do in the summertime? And it happened before the summer too. winter and spring practice, but you look at what are the things that we need to do. So certainly, how we finish workouts each day, what we did throughout the workouts, trying to facilitate leaders, making those guys have to step up from a leadership standpoint, all things that we've done in the past, but really being even more cognizant of it this year because, and then just the details. I mean, if you look at all those fourth quarters, there's a play here, a play there that's the difference in us winning and losing in those fourth quarters, and just continuing to convey to our guys and making them understand what a fine line it is between winning and losing. And in this league, games are going to come down to the fourth quarter, and it's the details of everything that you do, being dressed the right way, having the right socks on, whatever it might be, finishing every play, don't taking anything for granted. I mean, it all matters, and just holding guys accountable and trying to illustrate that as much as we can.
Lane Kiffin was talking this week when he hired Kendall at FAU that the newcomers were able to adjust quicker because that Bryles offense is so fast-paced. You have to be simplistic in your play calls. How much have you noticed that, through the spring and summer, that the simplicity allows guys to catch on quickly?
I would agree with that and see where he's coming from. I know from talking to our players, they've commented on that, just the offense, and that they're playing fast and it's, simpler. And I don't think, if I thought that what we were doing in the past was too complex and hard for guys to learn, we wouldn't have been doing it. I know it's easy to say, man, these last 5 years they've been running this pro-style offense that the players couldn't learn, and now they're doing this fast-paced, up-tempo, and they should have been doing this all along. Like, I don't think what we were doing previously was complicated. If it was, I would have stepped in and changed something. But I do believe that, how we operate, we're not up-tempo necessarily all the time, but how we operate, is very conducive to learning. I don't think there's a huge amount of volume in what we're doing, so guys are able to get really good over and over. But I would, from talking to our players, I would agree with that based on what they've told me. But I would also say this: I think there's a learning curve in some ways because this system that KB has brought, terminology-wise and verbiage-wise, is completely different to anything that we've done the last 5 years. From the coordinator in 21 and 22 to the coordinator in 23 and 24 to the coordinator in 25. They were different systems, but there were a lot of verbiage, carryovers, terminology that kind of carried over from one coach to the next. This is completely different. There's a little bit of similarities because, our coordinator in 23 and 24 had been at Arkansas and was in this system. So there's some things that he brought that Kendall still does, but for the most part, it's learning for me because it's completely different, how we do things. And then once you kind of learn it, it makes sense and it clicks, but there's a little bit of a learning curve. But I understand where Lane's coming from and would agree with that. And I think our players would tell you the same thing.
Hey, Shane.
How you doing?
Obviously, you've spoken a lot about just, trying to get leaders in the summer. Lenore's entering his fourth year with the program. He's kind of historically been a more reserved guy, and you don't really want to change who he is, but have you seen him kind of step up, vocally as leader as he enters basically his senior academically?
Yeah, certainly. And you're 100% right. You don't want to change who he is. I don't want to make him try and be somebody that he's not. I was around at Georgia. I think I may have told you guys this before. I was around Nick Chubb and Roquan Smith, and they were two of the greatest leaders I've been around, but they weren't the most vocal guys. Nick hardly ever said a word. I was with Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma, and Jalen, unbelievable person. He wasn't the most vocal guy. When he spoke, it really carried weight, but he led because of the kind of player he was, the work ethic, how he treated people. So I don't think you have to be some vocal, rah-rah leader all the time. You got to be who you are. But at the same time, when you are the quarterback, especially a quarterback that's in his 4th year in our program and about to be a 3-year starter, there's a leadership responsibility that comes with that you have to embrace in your own way. So a couple years ago, we had a bunch of fantastic leaders around Lenoris on that offense and defense where he didn't necessarily have to be that guy. He was a leader. He was voted a captain by his teammates in 2024, which is pretty cool. Now, though, everybody's looking to him. He's the older guy. He's the leader of the offense, and he's embraced that role in his own way. And, part of what we did this summer was putting him in positions where, he has to be that guy and making things really, really, really competitive. And, seeing those competitive juices get going and bring out the best in everybody, and saw that from him, and eager to see him continuing to, take those steps as our quarterback.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it, guys.
Yep. Thank you, guys.